Hi everyone, it's producer Aaron here from the Phoenix CSC. The following episode was recorded before Vidbir 2025 was broadcast live. However, due to time constraints, it was not possible to bring you this episode before the live show. At the time of recording, we did not know the outcome, but since then, of course, the show has aired and the results are now public. Despite this, we still wanted to share our discussions, thoughts, and predictions with you anyway, as they were in the moment. So, here's our episode on all things Vidbir 2025. Hope you enjoy.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Instead We Made a Pod. I am MJ. I am joined by my lovely co-host, Adam. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. We're doing this on a weeknight, which is quite peculiar for us. Usually we do these on the weekends. So I am shattered from work. But I guess that's just part of the kind of crazy season of national finals. It won't be this mental all the way up till May. Thank God. There's not that much to cover.
No, I am right there with you. I'm God's sleepiest soldier today. I think that this week in particular, we've got obviously Eurosong, which we just recorded an episode for. So please go and check that out. We've also got UMK on Saturday, which we've done an episode for as well. So check that out too. And then obviously we have the national final we are discussing today, which is Vidbir. But we are not alone in talking about Vidbir. We could not possibly miss out on bringing one of our favourite guests back to the podcast. Some of you might know him from his recent YouTube videos. ESC Gottem. Hi, Gottem. How you doing?
Hello. It's very nice to be back and talking about nothing for an hour again with you guys. I'm doing great. I cannot wait to talk about Vidbir. As you know, it's Ukraine, and I love talking about Ukraine in my background. And Vidbir is my favorite national final, so I cannot wait to have a lovely, candid discussion with all of you.
Yeah, we know that you love Vidbir. And Vidbir this year, one thing that I've noticed on the timeline is that people have been a little bit more negative about Vidbir this year compared to in previous years. So, Gottem, what are your thoughts on Vidbir sort of overall and the songs that we have? People don't seem as happy as they have been.
Yeah, I do think that Eurofans are being a little bit harsh. I think us people on Twitter, Eurovision Twitter, do tend to live in a bubble and discuss national finals from that point of view. I do think the quality compared to the last edition and the edition before that has dropped a little bit, but I do think it's people talking about how it has become this bad national final with no quality music in it is blown out of proportion. I don't feel like that's fair. We do have a lot of very nice songs, very well produced. We have very interesting artists this year. And the most important part is that Ukrainians, they do think that this is one of the strongest editions of Vidbir. So I do think that Eurofans should take a step back, preferably, and wait until we watch the final and see all of the performances live.
I think that's a really good point, especially because we know that Vidbir do live auditions before they make their shortlist. So chances are there have been performances behind the scenes that have had way more of an impact on the songs that have been picked and the songs that haven't. I agree with you. I think that the negativity about Vidbir this year is a little bit excessive and a little bit forced. I do agree that I thought that 2023 had a lot of really strong songs that I really liked. And 2024 obviously gave us Teresa and Maria, which was such an incredible song in Malmö. I would say that in terms of the overall quality of songs, I don't think there's been that much of a drop between this year and last year. The difference, I think, this year is that while in 2024 we had a really obvious runaway winner, I think that there's potentially a couple of songs that could take it this year, which I guess, if anything, makes it an interesting one to watch. Adam, what are your thoughts on Vidbir this year?
I'm gonna rain on your guys' parade a little bit here because
Oh, no.
I'm not gonna be as nice about Vidbir as you both have been. Overall, this is one of my least favorite national finals of the year. I think for me, there is one or two songs that have a chance of at most being in the bottom half of my top 10, probably more towards 15th to 20th overall, probably when all the songs come out. To me, Vidbir has always been the national final that has provided something new or something fresh or something that we haven't really seen in other national finals, or just great quality. And this year, just to me, fell off a cliff in terms of quality, and in terms of originality. Everything. The thing about Vidbir in the last few years is that you can tell that it's in Vidbir because they're so culturally tied to the music. Most of these songs, if they weren't in Ukrainian, could be literally in any national final. Very poor standard for me, and I'm not a fan, unfortunately.
So we have a bit of a mixed range of opinions, and sometimes, listen, Adam and Gottem are two very close personal friends of mine, and sometimes I feel a bit like a referee in a boxing ring when I'm chatting with the pair of them.
Me and Gottem never fight. I don't know what you're talking about.
I feel like today could be one of those days I'm being the referee in the boxing ring with this contrasted opinion about Vidbir, but we'll see how it goes. We have recorded 2 podcast episodes so far for 2025. Both of them involved national finals that do not have a lot of songs. In fact, it was UMK and Eurosong, both of which have 6 songs apiece. Vidbir, however, has 10. We are not going to be discussing all 10 songs. I'm sure to the earnest relief of both Adam and Gottem, considering it's Tuesday evening that we're recording this.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm always ready to talk about Ukraine.
That's true. You would happily talk about 10. I think Adam would actually kill me if I did.
Yeah, you're right.
So we're not going to be doing that. Instead, when it comes to the national finals that have a lot more songs where we couldn't possibly get through them all, we are going to talk about our highlights and our lowlights. Basically, the songs that we're all really clicking with and the songs that just aren't hitting it for us. I think that's going to be quite easy for this Vidbir episode, where me, Adam and Gottem, I think, do have quite similar tastes. But I think that maybe in future episodes where there's a bit more of a discrepancy between what we like and don't like, that could get interesting. And as always, we will be talking about who our preferred winner is and who our predicted winner is. So make sure you stick around for the end of this episode so you can see what we think. The first song that we're going to talk about is actually the song that won Vidbir's wildcard vote, and that is Kultura by Finka. Gottem, what do you think about this song, and what do you think about this being the wildcard choice?
Yeah, I'm just very, very confused. Most of you probably don't know this, but there has been some changes in the delegation of Ukraine this year, especially concerning Vidbir. Now the executive producer of Vidbir is Tina Karo. You might remember her from Eurovision 2006, I think. She's a very prominent artist in Ukraine. She's very well respected. I just don't know what happened in terms of the wild card. To me, there were like at least 3 songs that could have easily replaced some of the finalists. I think Finka should have been nowhere near the wild card. To me, this is in my top 3 favorite songs of the entire edition. I do think that it's very similar to her previous entry in Vidbir 2023. I do prefer this over the last one, Dovbush, but I do have to say that I can see where people are coming from. Not everybody is enjoying this song, but I just think that's Finka's artistry in general. It's not everybody's cup of tea. However, I personally love it. I am still shocked at how this was in the wild card. It won by a huge margin due to the fact that Finka is very, very popular in Ukraine and she has tons of fans. But I am just at a loss of words in terms of this not easily sailing through the final. And I would say the same about Grisana as well, that unfortunately stayed behind in the wildcard round. And now she has to go to San Marino and go through that hefty process of having to endure being a part of that national final, which is a mess and a half of its own. But yeah, I'm just very surprised. I love this entry. I think it's great showcase of Finka's artistry, great showcase of Ukrainian culture, especially Western Ukrainian culture. I think it's modern. I think it's fresh. I think it's very, very catchy. And I'm just very happy that Finka has not given up on being in Vidbir, and she does want to represent Ukraine. And I think it's coming her way. Maybe not this year, though.
I agree with you. I remember listening to this and thinking, why did this make it through the wildcard vote but not make it through the shortlist? Especially when I then heard all of the songs in the shortlisted 10. And it does make me wonder how much of that is, as you said, Gottem, changes to the delegation. You know, maybe they are just looking for different things compared to what we've seen in previous editions of Vidbir, or how much of it has come down to those live auditions, and maybe what we're hearing in the studio isn't necessarily what we're going to hear live on stage on Saturday.
I do get your point, but I simply think that this was purely Tina Carroll's personal decision. Finka does concerts and tours all the time. I'm more than sure, like 80% sure, that the live audition wasn't bad. I just think it came to the personal choice of the producer.
So Tina Carroll is not one of the girlies who gets it?
No, I don't think so.
Damn it, Tina. Adam, what do you think of Finka's song?
I think for me, this is very middle of the road. It's not a song that I would turn off if it came on shuffle, but it's also not a song that like I'm actively seeking out to listen to, or that like I'm saving 20 playlists, you know what I mean? And I just think for me, I find it quite one note. I find that there's not really like a moment in the song. It kind of seems to just chug along for 3 minutes, and there doesn't really seem to be like a really captivating moment. I'm holding out that maybe the live element of this song and a performance might elevate it to something I can appreciate a little bit more. But just based off the song itself, I don't really see this going anywhere. And I think if this was to go and represent Ukraine, which I don't think it will, because there are stronger songs in Vidbir, but if this was to go represent Ukraine, now I know Ukraine can stage songs incredibly, but I genuinely believe if you put this in a final with 26 other songs, it just doesn't have the legs to stand out. I think we would be looking at right-hand side of the scoreboard, probably somewhere between 15th and 20th. So yeah, look, it's a fine filler song for a national final, but yeah, I mean, I didn't even want this to win the wild card, so you know, it's fine, I guess.
Were you rooting for Kahone?
I was rooting for Kahone.
I kind of was rooting for Kahone too.
I think everybody was. This is the first time I see such a wild reception on Twitter, Eurovision Twitter, about a wildcard entry, and I jumped on that train. I'm very, very sad that we lost this in the wildcard.
Rosanna for San Marino, which is not a sentence I ever thought I'd say, but I do think that kind of speaks to, and you touched on this at the beginning of the episode, Gottem. I think this touches on the disconnect between what the voting public of a country want versus what Eurofans want. And clearly, by a country mile, the Ukrainian public wanted Finka to have another chance, and she does. So we obviously had some mixed opinions on Finka's song, but one song that we did not have mixed opinions on as a group is the song that we're going to be talking about next. And that is Wind of Change by Vlad Sharif. Adam, why don't you start us off? What are your thoughts on this song?
Okay, yeah, let's come through first. You know I'm moody, so yeah, let me just get it all out now. Okay. I obviously haven't heard everything that's in MESC or San Marino yet, so this is a big claim, but I'm going to make the claim now because I genuinely believe that this is going to be the case even after hearing MESC and San Marino's songs, and Moldova's actually. This is the worst national final song of the year. This is unlistenable, awful, awful, awful. I genuinely got physically angry after the first 20 seconds and had to turn it off. It's so bad. How this got in, what in God's name was Tina smoking? But Tina was smoking Tina that day because, girl, that is awful. It's by far the worst entry Vidbir has ever had in its history. It's, for me, the worst national final song of the year. This wouldn't look out of place at Eurosong 2022, and that is the highest insult I can give to a song. So, yeah, this is awful, and yeah, anyone who is involved in the decision making of Vibdir this year should be ashamed that this is a part of their national final, because, you know, Vidbir should be a powerhouse national final, and the inclusion of songs like this brings it down a lot in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably no surprise to anyone who's listened to these episodes that this song is not to mine and Adam's personal taste. That was my first thought when I listened to this was, oh my God, this is not for me. This is not the kind of thing I ever respond to in a national selection. And then, yeah, my second thought was, how is this in Vidbir? It felt bizarre to me that this song is in Vidbir.
You're right. I could have that whole thing of like, this is not for me, if this was in a Supernova or like LRT or somewhere like that. You know what I mean? It's like a national final that we don't expect anything from. I'd be like, yeah, no, fair enough, this song isn't for me, but like, that's the standard of these national finals that we're at, where there is just some dog shit on your shoe as you wade through the stuff that's in these national finals. Vidbir, you don't get that. Like, even the lower place songs from the last 2 years have been of a good quality. This is trash. Absolute trash.
The thing is, like, people who listen to our spaces and the podcast will know I am a teacher. If I were grading Vidbir like it was a paper and Wind of Change got put on my desk, I would be writing in big red pen, not your best, try again, about Wind of Change. Because, yeah, it's like you said, Adam, you expect this kind of song from certain national finals, and especially certain national finals that have a lot of filler in them. But Vidbir has never been that for me. So
this genuinely wouldn't look out of place at the Moldovan auditions.
It really wouldn't. Sung by Tudor Bumbatch. Yeah, I was flabbergasted when I heard this. I had to double check that it actually was the Vidbir playlist I was listening to. But yeah, I've never responded to those kind of big inspirational genres of ballads, and I don't think I ever will. Gottem, I can't imagine that this is a song you would enjoy, but why don't you just give us your thoughts?
Look, I am biased because I'm partially Ukrainian and I can never say a bad word about Vidbir. And I do think saying that this is the worst national final song of the year is not right, considering what we had to go through.
This is awful. Come on. Put your nationalism aside for a minute.
I'm not being nationalistic, but realistically, when Moldova had to withdraw purely because the quality of that national final was that bad, I don't think this is worse than Moldova. Especially considering that vile creature of a human we had to suffer again this year with his awful song in Moldova.
Sasha Bogdanov is worse, I will give you that.
Yeah.
If you're trying to justify a song by using Sasha Bogdanov, you're already losing.
No, but I'm just responding to your claim that this is the worst entry in the national final season. It really isn't. But this is the weakest Vidbir entry of all time. That I do agree with. He is a very nice singer. He's very skilled. He was a semi-finalist in The Voice of Ukraine. That was great and all. I do think that this song is so outdated. So outdated. I think the only fan of this song is probably his grandma, who is probably 80 years old. This is nothing, and I do agree with that. I think Tina Karol was definitely on something when she picked this for the final, for the short list. I don't know what this guy's doing there. I am not his biggest fan either. I don't enjoy his attitude. I don't enjoy the way he speaks. I'm very, very, very keen to believe that this live will be dreadful. He is not an experienced performer. No one can make this work. Jerry Hale cannot make this work, let alone this 20-year-old man that appeared out of nowhere. So this is the bottom of my Vidbir ranking, considering the short list and the long list. This is absolutely horrid.
And Vlad Sharif's grandma, if you are listening to this episode, we hope your grandson does very well.
No, we don't.
No,
we don't.
Very well.
We don't.
Hope he comes last and
we
never
hope-
sings again, never make music again.
Okay, let me rephrase that. Vlad Sharif's grandma, who is a huge fan of Instead We Made a Pod, although maybe not after this episode. We hope that after Vidbir, he comes home and you bake cookies for him. That's what we hope. Do you remember how at the start
Because
of
God
this
knows he's gonna need it after that last place he's about to get.
Teach him how to make a good borscht. Teach him how to make a good borscht, and then let him become a chef. Because music is not the pathway that this man should go down in life.
I cannot believe that we started recording this podcast to talk about Vidbir 2025. It has just become Vlad Sharif's careers interview. We are just mapping out this man's future now.
MJ, you put me and Gottem on a pod together. It was never going to be just this nice little structured podcast that we usually have. He brings out the chaos in me.
I just know you guys miss Alex Basmati right now. I just know it.
She was so civilized. I feel like a supply teacher at a rough school that has been left in charge of the two biggest problem children in the class right now.
At the end of the day, Alex Basmati was never going to start slandering Emmy's grandma. So, like, you know, there's definitely differences in the two. MJ, I think you should move on before we actually say something really offensive about this man.
I'm going to move on before Gottem just starts slandering every single member of Emmy's family and the person that she bought, like, a chocolate bar from the shop from one time, because he's got it in him.
I'm saving that for the after party of the podcast.
The podcast?
Yeah, we're going for drinks after this.
Yeah, oh, that'll be nice. That'll be fun. So on a slightly more positive note, we also got Masha Kondratenko's song, No Time to Cry. Got him. What are your thoughts on this song?
Listen, I have never been a fan of Masha Kondratenko, just because, to me, her music is meme music, and lately she has been trying to rebrand herself and trying to set a proper image for herself in terms of the musical industry of Ukraine, which is definitely very competitive. And I do think that this Vidbir entry attempt is the exact way to do it. I think she has done a flawless job. To me, this is a very well-produced track. Initially, I wasn't the biggest fan of this. With listening to it more over the past couple of weeks and days, it has grown on me a lot. To me, this is the most adequate choice for Ukraine. I don't particularly see in which direction the staging can go. I think there are a lot of ideas that could be tried out. She's a very skilled singer. I'm not worried about her performing this at all. I think she'll do a great job. I enjoy the structure of the song. I enjoy the fact that she used Ukrainian in it, because I do think without the Ukrainian parts, this song would have lost any Ukrainian identity, which she did do that, so I'm grateful for that. I just wished some parts of the song were a little bit longer, especially after that chorus in one of the, like, there is this slower part of the chorus and probably after the second verse, which I really, really enjoy. So I'm glad that she came up with such a wonderful entry. I'm very pleasantly surprised, and I do think that this is Masha's to lose as of now.
I agree with you. I really enjoy this song. For me, it's the song that Ukraine probably should send to Eurovision. There are other songs I really like in this selection, but for me, this is probably their best chance of continuing with the trajectory that Ukraine have had at Eurovision. Obviously, they've still yet to non-qualify for a final, generally do pretty well on the scoreboard on the final as well. I think that this is a really good opportunity. I didn't know much about Masha's music before this Vidbir entry. I did know that she's not necessarily been taken seriously as an artist or released particularly serious music. So I was quite surprised when I heard this because I really enjoyed it. And it makes me think to a lesser extent, it almost makes me think of the trajectory that Jerry Hale went on with her Vidbir entries. Obviously, in 2020, she sent Vegan, which was kind of a bit of a light-hearted, kind of silly song, and, you know, didn't do that well at Vidbir, really. Then we got When God Shut the Door, which people liked a lot better. And then we got Teresa and Maria, which, I mean, flawless, you know, one of my winners for that year. So I think it's really cool that she's using this as an opportunity to showcase her new music and the direction that she wants to take it in. And I think it would be really good if that paid off for her. Adam, what are your thoughts on this song?
Yeah, I mean, like I said at the beginning, there's kind of one or two songs that did stand out to me that like would be kind of up there for me, possibly kind of like bordering on my top 10 of the year. And this is one of them. What I was saying about Finca in terms of a song kind of like plodding along, I kind of have the opposite with this, where like, you know, there's impactful moments throughout the song and it builds really nicely. And I think it's really enjoyable. I was also surprised because when the artists first came out, I remember I was on FaceTime with Gottem and we were talking about the different artists, kind of like what he knew about each. And he was like, oh, like, don't even worry about Masha. She's a meme artist. And then I heard the song and I was like, girl, this ain't meme music. This is good food. By far, in my opinion, the entry that could definitely bring Ukraine the strongest result in May. I do worry about how they staged this on the Vidbir stage. They're very different sonically, but I do kind of see similarities in terms of like Teresa and Maria was not a song that was made for a stage like Vidbir. It was made for a Eurovision stage. And I have the same thing with this song. I don't think we're going to see the full vision until it has this massive stage production behind it, because this could really be a moment if it's staged right in Basel. You know, that kind of chorus where all of the kind of backing vocals come in and this like there's this really intense beat. Like you could do so much with strobes and all of this kind of like just really crazy lights. I have a lot of visions for how this could look in Basel, and I think it really could be a moment. I think sonically it should be Masha's to lose, because I think this is definitely the strongest song of the year in terms of where Ukraine could place in May.
Yeah, I agree. And I totally get what you mean about songs having much more of an impact in terms of their staging when they get to Eurovision versus on the Vidbir stage. One thing we know about Ukraine is that when it comes to Eurovision, they know how to stage the heck out of an entry. So this has lots of potential. And obviously, we did get pictures of the Vidbir stage today. Gottem, were you happy with what you saw?
I'm shocked, considering what they did in 2023 and 2024, everything being underground due to the war, as we all know. I'm just very curious to find out where they put this stage, and is it underground as well? And I didn't expect this at all. I thought we were getting Vidbir 2024 2.0 in terms of stage. I just have no words. It caught me off guard completely.
Yeah, me too. If that's in a metro station again or anything like that, oh my God, where are they fitting that? It looks so good. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what that looks like on the night. Although I will probably be quite busy during Vidbir because it's my friend's hen do. So I guess what I mean to say is that I'll probably be excited to see it on Sunday morning when I'm wrapped in my dressing gown watching them all. Last but not least, in terms of our highlights for Vidbir, I guess highlights for Vidbir plus Vlad's Parade interview is that we are going to talk about a song by Ukrainian post-punk band Dikar Energetic, and that song is Still. Now, I'm going to build up to Gottem because I happen to know that this is Gottem's favourite band, not just in the selection, but of all time. So I think we should build up to him. So Adam, what do you think of this song?
Yeah, I'm going to be a lot less excitable. I enjoy this. For me, Eastern European post-punk, or like Ukrainian post-punk specifically, is a genre that I've dipped into, but not particularly have really delved into. I enjoy it. as a song and I enjoy the band. Do I think this is the right song for Eurovision? No, because I think there is a subsect of people like myself and like you, MJ, in the West that can appreciate music like this. And then there's quite a larger subsect of people that won't appreciate this because they won't get it, because it's just not something that is at all common over here. You know, even our post-punk is completely different in how it sounds to kind of Slavic or Eastern European post-punk. I definitely can kind of like see where, because for most people, their only real experience with post-punk is like brutalist edits on TikTok to like Molchat Duma. And I can definitely see why some people are like, oh yeah, this is basically like Molchat Duma. And I'm like, it is, there's similarities, but like they're very different also. I'm glad that kind of the door has now been opened for this genre of music to be in Vidbir and maybe in the future to be Eurovision. Do I think that this song is the right way to go? No. But am I excited that this genre has now had the door opened? Yes, because I think we could see artists more like Sadsfit coming into Vidbir, who I think would definitely be a lot more appropriate for Eurovision. But yeah, I think this is a great song. I'm glad that this genre is now in contention to go, but maybe just not this song.
Listen, if someone asks me what my favourite genre of music is, not my favourite band, not my favourite song, I think as a whole, I would say that my favourite genre is post-punk. I do agree with you that I think that Western, Eastern post-punk are very different. If you think about the post-punk bands that are really big over here, things like Fontaine's DC, it's a very different sound to Eastern European post-punk. And the girlies that get it. And I am one of the girlies that gets it. I love this song. It scratches my brain in a really satisfying way. I agree with you that I think that this probably isn't the right fit for Eurovision, but I still think it's great. And I'm really, really glad that we've got something like this represented in the national final. And I agree with you, it would be great if this kind of opened doors for other bands belonging to that genre to go for it too. I think part of the reason, and like, I try not to be gatekeepy about things, but I also think part of the reason I wouldn't want to necessarily see this at Eurovision is because it would just annoy me seeing the amount of people on the timeline. And in fact, it has annoyed me a little bit already, seeing the amount of people on the timeline that are like, what is this? This is such a flop. This is rubbish, because, you know, their understanding of music is maybe not in this kind of, you know, genre. And listen, just because it's not a genre that you respond to doesn't mean it's not good. And yeah, I think that's also part of the reason why, as much as I love it, I don't necessarily want it to win, because those takes would just be amplified even more en masse in the run-up to May. And I think it would just annoy me. But Gottem, this is your favourite band ever. So tell us about it.
Well, it's not my favorite band ever, but in terms of my favorite genre...
You talked about it when this band dropped. Who was your favourite band ever?
They are my favorite band in the Ukrainian post-punk scene. Ukrainian post-punk and Eastern European post-punk is my jizz. It's my favorite genre of all time, is what I listen to all the time. When they got announced for the short list and the long list as well, when they just got announced, I was so shocked. I was at a loss for words. I woke up from a nap and that was the first thing I saw. It just felt like a dream, because I would have never imagined that post-punk would find a place in Eurovision and the whole stratosphere of Eurovision, even if it's like a national final. I think it's great that Tina decided to include this. They are a relatively new band. They only started making music in 2023, and they still have built a name for themselves in the Ukrainian musical industry. I think that they are wonderful artists. I think it's top-notch Ukrainian post-punk. That's as far as you can get to what it sounds like. They have that authentic sound, very retro, very 90s, and I do appreciate that. It's my favorite song out of Vidbir this year. Do I want this to go to Eurovision? Not necessarily. I do think that Deka Energetic probably isn't the best choice in terms of representative out of the post-punk scene that should be going to Eurovision. They have a very chill vibe. They are amazing, but I think that if Ukraine wants to send post-punk to Eurovision, it should either be more popish, as Adam said, with Satsvit, or I do think that they should lean into definitely a bigger brutalistic feel if it wants to have any competitiveness to it. I'm very happy it's in the national final. I think this won't be last in Vidbir. It will probably be around 5th. Ukrainians do love this genre a lot. I just don't want this to go to Eurovision because I don't have the time to defend this throughout the entire season from now on to May. And I do worry about if this wins, how are they going to make it work? It's not something that the casual viewer in Western or Southern Europe would necessarily respond to. I'm just very happy they're there. I enjoy the song. I stream it a lot. It's amazing. That's my 2 cents. I'm just very pleased that they are in the competition this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think what you said about what they'd actually do with this if it got to Eurovision as well. I think I worry about bands that are kind of more renowned as kind of live music bands always when it comes to Eurovision, because you're not allowed to play the instruments live. You're performing for TV cameras rather than just a live audience. And I think that sometimes that inhibits certain acts as well in a way that is a damn shame. We all know I love live music. It's my passion. And Eurovision isn't necessarily always the best representative of bands like that when on the rare occasion that they do go on to represent a country at Eurovision. So those are our highlights and our lowlights. We are going to round this episode off by talking about our preferred winner versus our predicted winner. My preferred winner is definitely Masha. I think that this is by far Ukraine's best chance at Eurovision, and I think it has a lot of really good staging potential as well. In terms of my predicted winner, I do think that Masha has a really good chance of winning it, but I actually also wonder if Bird of Prey by Zifferblatt could potentially take it. We know the juries really liked it. It won the jury vote last year with their song Place Called Home. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did quite well, because if it weren't for Razor and Maria last year, they probably would have won. Adam, preferred winner, predicted winner, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, my preferred winner is Masha as well. I think that definitely has the most potential. Also, another shout out, I would also say that My C by Melody, I'd be happy with that winning as well. I really enjoy that song. So either Masha or Melody for my preferred winner. And then I do think it's going to be a 2-horse race between Masha and Zifferblatt for the win, prediction-wise. I think obviously Zifferblatt did so well last year with the juries and in the Ukrainian kind of like public vote. So there definitely is a chance that, you know, they'll continue to kind of build on that momentum from last year. The song really isn't for me, but I could see a Ukrainian public kind of gravitate towards it.
Gottem, what's your preferred winner? What's your predicted winner?
So, as we all know, my preferred winner is Deka Energetic with Sil. They wrote this for me. It's in Vidbir because of me. I don't care what everybody says. I was always going to enjoy this. It was always going to be my winner. Who do I think is going to win? I do tend to have the tendency to not predict Vidbir, just because, as you guys remember, in 2023, we really, really thought that it was going to be between Krut and Jerry Hale, which didn't happen, and Torchi won. And that's the reason why, even though Teresa and Maria was clearly the best choice last year, I was on my tippity-tappity toes until the end to see who is going to win, because you never know with Vidbir. So my predicted winner as of now is Masha. Ukrainians love this. They have responded to it. I think that the majority of them would be very supportive if this went to Eurovision. I think Zifferblatt can sneak in and take the win from her just because it's 50-50. If the juries put this in 12 and they get like second place in the televote, Zifferblatt might win the whole edition of Vidbir this year. So I don't know. I don't think it's impossible for Finka or somebody else taking the win in the end, but I do think this is a two-horse race with Masha and Zifferblatt, and I do think that Masha has the upper hand as of now. But we really do have to wait and see the performances, because I think that's going to make or break the entries this year.
You're absolutely right. Anything could happen at Vidbir. People weren't expecting Torchy to win necessarily, and they did. I just hope that we don't have a repeat situation of last year where the app crashed and we had to wait a full extra day to finally hear what we were expecting, which was that Teresa and Maria was going to win, because I think that would actually kill Gottem if we had to go through that again.
It really would. It really would.
So that is all we have time for this episode. We will be recording some more podcast episodes in the future. We don't really have a lot of big national finals for a while now, really, until Melfest. So what we're going to start doing is talking about 2 or 3 national finals per episode ahead of time, really quickly. What do we like? What do we think could do well? Highlights and lowlights, and just combine a few at once. We are also going to continue doing spaces. You might have tuned into our first one. We're going to continue doing those every Sunday to give our thoughts on the winners after we get them, rather than predicting ahead of time. And we're going to continue to have really good content on the website as well. So make sure that you follow us at the Phoenix CSC on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Blue Sky for all of that, so that you don't miss any of our content. Gottem and Adam, I will see you very soon, because we're all going to Eurosong together.
Yes, see you very, very soon. Very exciting. We will all be together in Dublin. But for people not going to Dublin, Gottem, where can the listeners find you?
Yeah, you can catch me on Twitter. I'm very active there. But most importantly, you can go and check out my YouTube channel, which I started recently. I do wonderful content. We are dragging everything, everyone. If you want to have a little chit-chat with me and hear out what I have to say about everything, go over there. It's at ESC Gottem on YouTube. You can find me there. And yeah.
And listen, if you like brutal honesty paired with British fun pop culture references, you may have just found the channel for you. I cannot recommend Gottem's videos enough. They make me crack up laughing every single time.
Ah, no, that's right.
I know that's right. So until then, we will see you all very soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.